in my calendar, so I had to log into Zoom to find it. So that was a little embarrassing. But I've got a great demo for today, so I'm excited. Okay, so let me just bring up the presentation. Yeah, slideshow. Okay. Okay, slideshow. And share the screen. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see the screen okay. So this is about, there's been a bunch of new stuff since FileMaker 20 and FileMaker 22. So there's still some users that are using, 18, 19, even we have some clients using 16, and there's a bunch of stuff that's in the new version. Also, there's, a lot of people, uh, still using, they might be using FileMaker 21 or 22, but there's a lot of features that are in FileMaker, you know, that have been added that we haven't added to the solution. So they're there, but we just haven't plugged them in yet. And that's hopefully I'm going to show you a couple things that don't need a lot of work that you can add kind of, immediately to your solution and um, get a big improvement from. So I'm just going to open my copy of FileMaker. We'll get this show started. Okay, so once again, just introduction to NeoCode. We focus primarily on small work groups and large enterprises. So typically there's custom applications, there's special workflows that the larger organization can't provide, they can't handle. And so custom software like FileMaker is a great way to do it. And usually we're working with like champions in the organization that might do some FileMaker programming themselves. And then we can come in and assist where needed. At the moment, kind of our two largest accounts at the moment are BC Hydro and Fortis, and we're working with them on the heat pump initiative for lower income. So today we're really focused on, like I said, 22. And I've updated this slide, like the benefits, because there's some new things that you may not be aware of. But I'm just going to skip some of these things. If you've been to previous previous webinars, you've heard about some of these. But one of the new things is this Clara Studio two-way sync. So in the past, it was a one-way sync. And for those of you that aren't aware, Claris made Clara Studio free for all FileMaker license users. So before it was a separate thing they had to pay for, and now it's all included. And the advantage of Clara Studio is you can get public guest users to fill out forms without using your FileMaker server license. So you can literally have hundreds of people. So for example, if you have people registering for conferences, they no longer have to use like PHP pages or use WebDirect. They can use Clara Studio to view, nice web forms that the data can go into FileMaker. FileMaker then updates that data. So for example, if you have flight information that changes or address information changes, the users can come in and see that data. So that's pretty exciting. This is just a reminder that there's lots of tools for learning about FileMaker. So we really enjoy working with, internal champions that actively, are doing FileMaker development. And there's tons of tools out there for them to study, and we can help you with that. So these are some of the resources that we like. If you have questions, obviously, reach out to us. But if you're looking for, free resources, stuff that you can do on your own that don't cost anything, these are some of the sources that you can, ask for questions, maybe low-hanging fruit. You can definitely use these resources. Um, so I think the most, typically what people need help with is the troubleshooting and the design. And really, before you get to that point, you really do need to understand how FileMaker works and how what it calls things. And that's where, this resource in here, the accounts like the Academy or the LinkedIn Learning Essentials, which is free FileMaker training, will help out. And if you have questions about any of these things, just send me an email at josh@neocode.com and I'll help you. So this particular webinar was about boosting business efficiency using tools that have been built in that you may not be aware of or that you may not be using. And this one, there's a hidden number 5 in here that we're going to get to, but the main thing will be this low effort, like low hanging fruit that we can look at. So maybe skip to this one. So layout calculations. Have anybody has anybody worked with layout calculations? Anybody know what they are before I show them? Okay. So this is one kind of sample file. Okay. So I just put together a sample here. So layout calculations are accessible from the text tool drop down in FileMaker 22. And they had text. So merge fields are what we had before. So you could just put like data. Um, you could just basically show, where did it put it? I don't see where I put the merge field. Oh, I just have to click and then I can pick a field. So this is the old way. So you could just display the field. So if you didn't want to, sometimes we want to have instead of actually having the box like this where you show the field, we want to put it like this. And a common reason to do that is if you're writing out an address. So it's like it goes street address and then city and then postal code. And if you put, these regular fields in a row, it won't shrink the spaces. So you want to go like address, comma, space, city, comma, space, province. And the only real way to do that is with merge fields to have it look nice on an invoice or in an envelope. But you couldn't modify. So with layout calculations, you have the full power of the calculation engine in the layout. So this is kind of a silly example, but I just wanted to demonstrate what you can do with the layout. So all of your calculations are available here. So for example, it's like really easy. I just picked text size and text color to show you that I'm modifying, modifying that. And I don't need to create a new calculation field. So for whatever reason, if I did need to change the size or change the color in a layout on something to like really make it pop, make it stand out, um, you could do that with, conditional formatting. So it's kind of a bad example, but it's just, again, showing you that we have more control. So conditional formatting is, in a way, a simpler version of layout calculations. Anything that you could do with conditional formatting, you can do with layout calculations with even more control. Because conditional formatting, you actually can't change the content. Whereas with a um, layout calculation, we can change the content. So for example, in this one, I'm, you know, let's say I only wanted to display the first 4 characters. So this is giving me the first 4 characters. And then when I've got this, date, I only want to show the year. So I'm not having to create additional fields. So a lot of the things that layout calculations are letting us do is avoid creating, like, we might have a date and then we might have to have a month version of that or a date version of that or a whatever. And we don't have to anymore with the layout calculations. The downside is that they're just display on the layout. So you can't do any finding in them. You can't do any searching. It's strictly for display and reporting purposes. But that can be, extremely powerful. So for example, if I'm making a dashboard, I might want to have a sum, and I don't need that anywhere else in my solution. I could create a custom field for that. I could create a new field for that, or I could just create a layout calculation and I can get the sum. I can get the value immediately on the layout. And I don't have to remember a lot of time when we're programming, we're trying to figure out where something is. Like, did I create a field for that? Does that exist somewhere else? And with layout calculations, the code is documenting itself. Like, I can see exactly what this does. It takes the current date and subtracts 2 from it. So in browse mode, I'm getting yesterday's date, which is, I don't know why you would want that, but again, in a dashboard, there's a bunch of things where you would want that. Again, I'm getting the sum. So I think the layout calculations are fantastic. And I've used them for, I'll show you here. So here I have a credit calculation that we use internally um, to kind of figure out how many hours, clients have available. And I've got like a credit limit, outstanding balance available. And I've been able to do that from here. I don't need to search on this. It's strictly for like reporting purposes when I'm like, doing work orders, and I don't have to create, uh, I don't have to muddy my schema. I don't have to have like, hundreds of fields that I only need for reporting. Now I can just, handle it here. And you'll notice I was able to format it so it looks exactly like a field. So even though it's a layout calculation, I was able to format it with the correct number of decimals. I was able to make the box go around it. I was able to do, right justification. So you can make it look exactly how you want it to look for um, any other field. So if you have any questions, let me just see. I see there's something in chat. Um, a little. Danielle, did you want to say something else? That's okay. Okay, so yeah, I love layout calculations. So the next issue is this um, FileMaker added this um, loop flush option. So now when you create a loop, before you wouldn't see flush, it would just say loop. And now we're getting 3 different options. So we get always, minimum, and defer. And this um, this new loop feature is only useful when you're using fields that are being set in a calculation, when you're using fields that are used in a relationship, sorry, not a calculation, used in a relationship. So for example, I have um, in my solution, I have this invoice range start, invoice range end field. So when my bookkeeper, she's looking at a client, she can filter the range of invoices that she's looking at in a portal. So these are just fields in the contact table. You can see invoice range start, invoice range end. And so she can put a date in that. And then those dates are used, as you can see, in the portal, right? So they're filtering down here. So it's like greater than invoice range start and less than invoice range end. So we're getting, uh, and the advantage of this, as opposed to you have a portal filter. The portal filter will do something that looks like this, but it's not actually changing the records in the portal. It's just changing what records get displayed, but the records in the portal remain the same. Whereas doing it this way, we can actually give her a sum. So if she puts in this value, so January 1st to January 28th, I can have a sum value and I can say, you know, the value of the invoices in that range is X. So we can actually do a summary. We can actually counter. Yeah, portal filters are slower because they're not actually changing your data set. Exactly. So now I've established, so what I wanted to show you here is that these are fields that are used to control portals. So if I was going to loop through all of my customers and set I wanted to set the portal start date and the portal end date, these invoice ranges. Let's say I have 1,000 customers and I want to go through all 1,000 and I want to set each of those customer invoice range start and invoice range end to this value and loop through and do that, this this loop defer or loop minimum is going to dramatically improve the performance of that loop. Okay, because every time these values get set, that portal is getting refreshed. So, and that could be hundreds of records, that could be thousands of records. So refreshing these, 1,000, going through 1,000 records and refreshing 1,000 portals with hundreds of records in each portal, FileMaker flushes the cache each and every single time. And that's going to be slow, but that's what we were used to. That's what we had. And now FileMaker is giving us the option to decide to when to do the flush. So this would do the flush after every loop. So every time like I go to customer A, change the fields, I'd flush the portal. So the portal would be updated right away. I'd go to the next record, customer B, I'd update start and end, it would flush the portal right away. But if I'm doing this, so for example, in the case that I was describing, we don't need to flush all the portals like as we're going. We can do it at the end, right? So it's a lot faster. So if for example I wanted to like update the sum, I wanted to get the sum of the client spending in that, date range to create a report, I don't need it flushed after each commit. Just do it at the end and then I can get the total. So this would have a big impact on, any scripts that are updating, basically they're updating keys, like relationship keys. So if you look in here, this invoice, range, invoice, end, and start, these are key values that are being updated that drive this portal. So if you have any relationship that looks like that, um, then this is something that you can implement right away in 5 seconds. So it's a really quick win. So the layout, the calculation engine, like the layout, these guys, it might be a little bit more work because you already have existing fields that are doing this. So it's really like going forward, if you're doing new things, you might stop using or stop doing things the old way. But I actually prefer this because, like I said, the code is self-commenting. You can see what it does right away. Often I'd have to go into, manage databases to see what the calculation was doing. I know exactly what I'm looking at when I see here. So I love that. Okay. And so this is what it looks like. So you'd have it and you'd change it. So this is just an example of what it looks like. It's not what you would like. This isn't an example of where you would actually use this because we're just doing set fields in a contact database. So it's not, these values aren't actually, primary keys. Okay, so any questions on that? Just pipe up. So this is for server admins, and it is, um, you know, it may look like it's not a big thing, but having everything in a single view, I think is really great. So before, you'd have Let me just see if I can zoom this in a little bit. So before, in older versions of FileMaker Server, you'd have your backup schedules over here in this tab. So it would be configuration, and then you'd have, oh, scripted. This is the regular scripts. So this isn't the backup schedule. This is your regular script schedule. And then your backup schedules would be over here in backups and backup schedules. So the issue with having them separate is your backup schedule is absolutely going to affect your script schedule. So if you have a backup running and you have another big script running, your backups typically, will impact your server performance. And backups will actually be locking your files. So you want to be able to see, when the backup schedules are timed and when your scripts are timed. And that's what we now get in the new version is your everything that your server is doing on a schedule, whether it's backups or scripts or other functions, everything is now visible. You can see when it's going to run next, when it was run. So it seems like such an obvious thing. Like why didn't we have it earlier? But now that we have it, it's great. And what they've done um, to make it useful again, or to see the way it was before, is you can just filter right here. So there's this little, kind of hamburger menu that they call, where it says here hamburger menu. So you can click on that, and then you can specify filters. So you could say, just show me the backups, or show me the script schedules, or whatever. And if you click on the gear, you can hide columns. So it's really the, best of both worlds. Like we really have everything together now. So um, yeah, I love it. It's a little tiny thing, but it really it makes a big difference. So okay. So this next part, the SSL it is kind of a um, this is really only applicable to people whose servers are publicly available. So if your server is behind a firewall or internal only, this improvement doesn't apply. But if your server is publicly available, like it has a public IP and you have like staff remotely connecting to it that aren't using a VPN, then this is going to be interesting to you. So having an SSL certificate on an internal server, you can just use the built-in one from FileMaker. You don't have to have like you can have like a self-signed certificate. But if you want to have a real publicly signed certificate, FileMaker is finally, you were always able to get this Let's Encrypt, but now it's completely automated. And so remember I was saying it has to be publicly accessible. So for example, our servers are publicly accessible. So um, so this is like my internal, this is my FileMaker server, and I could use Let's Encrypt for this. Um, and now there's just like a bunch of screens to walk you through the whole process. And you can get free SSL certificates every 3 months. So Let's Encrypt is a service from Google, and it's free, and they do it to reduce the number of phishing sites. So it's a way to protect the internet. And in a way, you could think of it as like public immunization, or that kind of herd protection. So the more people that are using SSL, the safer the whole internet is. And FileMaker has steadily improved its support of that. So totally free, you set it up, and it will continue to protect your server with free SSL. So that's so we charge for that. So I think we're charging like $130 a year to purchase the SSL and install that. And with this, that fee goes away. So this one, again, why did it take so long? So with FileMaker, they call it 2025, but if you look in your version, it says FileMaker 22. But now you can get Um, Updates just from here. You can just click update and you don't have to go download anything. You don't have to go to a website. You don't have to, nope, you just click it and it will bring it to you. So this is the way most apps have been doing upgrades for quite a while. And this really brings FileMaker, um, up to the standard of, other applications. This doesn't apply to the server. So if you have the server, we still do a manual install because of we don't want to, like FileMaker doesn't want the potential of an upgrade going wrong and leaving the server in a bad state. So that's still manual, but the client is just a painless, click and it updates. So it's a trivial matter now to keep all staff on the latest version. So this is the exciting part. This is like the one more thing that I can show you. So this was this, okay. So oh, I hit it. Okay. Okay. So I've got a bunch of files here. So the contacts database is a free database. I just went to create new, and FileMaker gives us um, 6 sample files. You know, they it does feel a little small. Maybe they could have done 7, maybe they could have done 9, but we're getting 6. And we have one of them is the contacts, and you can click create. And when you do, it asks you to save it somewhere. And you get an empty file that looks like this. So there's a contact table, an address table, a phone number table, an email table. And um, yeah, it's not bad. And I usually use, this database for testing and for like adding new features because it's something that everybody can get to. But the issue is that it has no data. So if we're doing a presentation, we need sample data. So I asked ChatGPT, I gave ChatGPT the schema. So basically all the fields, the relationships, I gave it all that. And it gave me 4 sample CSV files to import. And I imported them and we got this. So it, it made up some, photo thing, which is pretty funny. And I got some, you know, it made up email addresses and it made up addresses. And so I've got like a bunch of records in here. So this person lives in 2 countries. So that'll uh, make sense later. Um, but yeah, it used real, I don't know whether the postal codes are correct, but anyway, I've got sample data and I've got, um, interesting stuff here, companies and everything. So then, oh, sorry, I should open that again. So, okay, so now I've got the sample, uh, hold on, sorry. Uh, Press, yes. Okay, 10 minutes is going to be fine. So, um, So now that I've got the 100 records, I can go into edit layout and I can go to add-ons. And there's a free add-on from FileMaker that you can go and download. And here's the link. Again, you can email me and I'll send it to you. And we can add this button that says App Assistant to it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So from here, we click Install Add-on, and you need to install this add-on in a certain place in the computer. So there's basically a folder where you put this in the FileMaker folder, and then this shows up. It's not included by default, so it's like these ones are the default ones. So this one is like an add-on that we have to add on specially. So we choose that, and then it shows up here, and then we just drag it onto um, and all the code, all the scripts, everything automatically shows up here, which is fantastic. So I'm going to close this file and show you one that I've already configured because we have to put in some configuration info, and I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to show you one that I already did. So on this one, it's the same file, just I've configured it. So if we click here on the gear, all I did in my file is I put in the API key from OpenAI. So you have to have an OpenAI key. And I made up an account name. You can put anything in there. And that's all I did. Just those two things. The API key and a made up name. The name doesn't matter. Okay, I did one more thing. I checked all of these things. So these are the fields that I want FileMaker to be able to read. And then you can click on App Assistant. So this is some previous queries that I did. So it just looks like ChatGPT. And so I can ask this question again, how many companies are there? And it's talking directly to um, the FileMaker database. It's not sending any data to ChatGPT. What it's doing is it's sending the schema. It's sending the fields, the layout information, and then ChatGPT is teaching FileMaker how to do the find. So that's what's happening. So ChatGPT knows about FileMaker finding and the data API, and ChatGPT is then giving the command to FileMaker to execute on behalf of the user. So the fun thing is this kind of question. Now, this kind of question is a pivot table, and it's like really hard that we can get it. To write this to give users the ability to do this. So instead of having, users asking programmers or developers, how about this, how about that, we can just give them this app assistant, and this might solve 10% of the problems, 20% of the problems, but um, now I can say, of the companies that we have, how many contacts to each, and then, right, and I can say sort them by number of contacts. And this is live data. So if I'm changing records or if I'm updating stuff, oh, I got to click the button here. If I'm updating things, then no data is available to respond. Sort. That that is ChatGPT. Sort the companies by the number of contacts. Okay, so that's the demo. And I can do more stuff with this, but that's really what I wanted to show was that adding this app assistant took 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops, and immediately out of the box, you're seeing crazy, crazy value. That you're seeing some craziness here. It's counting. The counting is weird. Okay, so, but the model will only get better. So before we wrap up, any questions, any comments? Um, yeah, so I would encourage you to, try this on a sample database, or you can email me and I'll send you the sample. I'll send you the sample file. You can put in your own open API. Just email josh@neocode.com and I'll send it to you. But like I said, I'd recommend playing with in a sample file first, and then just moving it to one of your solutions. So yeah, App Assistant is great. It really is great. It's so yeah, yeah, everybody should do it. So yeah, next time I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper in some of the other features, and I'll come back to App Assistant and do a little bit more there as well. So okay, unless there's any other questions, I'll sign off here, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and reach out to me with any questions or for sample files. Okay, thanks everybody. Thank you.